Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. I am Mark Corbett, and with me from the great wilds of Nova Scotia, we have Mr. Mat Germain. Hey, Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm enjoying the forest time, Mark, and I'm glad that I get all the time in the world to monitor the trades because it's been a busy day.
Oh, gosh. All right. You've been very good about posting stuff. I don't know how you've had access to everything that's going on last week with the trades, but my gosh, Matt, I mean, clickbait. I was looking at everything for Luis Arias, and I was looking for Terry Scubo and others, and quite honestly, I thought I might see some Rays names, but those are the ones over the last week. I guess my eyes kept looking for to see, what was going to happen. And Terry Scubo, oh gosh, the Dodgers. I don't know if you'd call it if they were playing Risk or Monopoly, trying to gather up all the hotels on the main street there. But I just felt like, doggone it, man, let somebody else have a chance with that talent of Mr. Scubo's.
Yeah, I think when we talked last, or the time before, I don't remember which, I pointed out that it was basically the Dodgers or nobody. Because if you're paying the price that they paid, you need to know you actually have a chance to extend them, right?
Yeah.
And they did pay a steep price. Having said that, the Detroit Tigers did not get one of the top three prospects from the Dodgers in return for Tariq Skubal. How does that happen? We've seen the Rays make trades like this before to get the top two for lesser guys than Tariq Skubal. So I don't know. I think the Tigers, either they didn't pull the trigger early enough and gave the Dodgers too much leverage, or they weren't getting as much play from other teams as we suspect. They got good players. They're great players. They're just, there's a lot of risk still involved, especially injury-wise with the main starting pitcher they got in River. The outfielder they got still had, he's looking a little bit like a 2020 guy, maybe, if he hits well enough. And then who knows after that what you might get, right? So a little bit like a Randy Arozarena type, maybe. Yeah. It's an okay trade. It's just when you're going with Tariq Skubal, you expect a little bit more.
Well, I wondered, if the Dodgers had to, maybe a side deal, they had to pick up and buy a few Little Caesars franchises, for instance. I make fun of that because the owner of the Tigers owns Little Caesars, and it's quite evident when you go through the park over there. And as much as I'd like to criticize him, it was interesting. My brother-in-law, who was here with us today, he says, Mark, you realize what he did, Illich, what he did for Rosa Parks. I said, no, what's totally didn't know. And he said, well, evidently Rosa Parks, as she became more elderly, she got robbed in her own home, her apartment or whatever at that point. And Illich anonymously helped find a home for her and paid for her rent for the rest of her life at a place that was a little bit more secure and safe than where she had been living. And I thought, okay, I can never say another bad thing about him, I guess, again. But that was a little story I was unaware of. I had to go check that. It's like, crazy. But on other good news, in preparation for the show, I did my own homework, and I'll check 2 or 3 different sources, Matt. But I'll check ChatGPT too. And today I do it almost for fun. I mean, for one thing, about a half year ago, they told me Gary Sheffield was in the Hall of Fame, which is, that would be cool, but it's not true. And I wasn't even going to ask about Lou Piniella. But today, and I was asking about trades for the Red Sox, and they said, well, Alex Cora is having a good year. I said, but it ain't in Boston, buddy. So you don't ever trust ChatGPT. I think I ask it questions just for the fun of it to see how badly the answers are going to be. So I hope that when these managers are making decisions for their teams, that they've kind of used something besides that as their tool, because I worry more and more that stats are being used for the selection and not observation. So with that in mind, what did you think of what the Rays did for this trade deadline?
I think they got 3 of the 4 main things that I was looking for done. So 75%. So I would say that it was a very good, solid trade deadline. But I think, they got the catcher they wanted, which is seriously going to help their. I'm hearing an animal right outside my car. And I don't
Okay.
know what it is, Mark. Let me hang on.
Do
Let me
you
just
need to
pull.
move? Do you,
Yeah, no, I
out
just
there in the
don't know what
wilderness,
it is.
brother, I want you to be safe.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look at what it is.
Well, we'll sit here and while
Oh,
you're
you
there,
know
I'll
what it
do.
is? I
What's
got
that?
it. It's an owl.
Oh, good. It's a friendly owl, right?
You gotta love it, Mark. Nature is wild.
It is indeed.
So
Woof.
yeah, the Liam Hicks edition to me, like when I on the surface, when I look at it overall, is the most impactful one. And the reason being that it takes the entire lineup's performance against right-handed pitching up a notch. And
Yeah.
especially with the slug part of it. If you're looking at what the Rays are getting, like what they've done so far from the catching position against right-handed pitchers, they're getting about 100 points more on the slug with Liam Hicks in the lineup than they would have with what they've had so far. So not only that, Mark, but he's actually, controlled through 2031.
Yeah.
So now with Hicks and Fortes, you're able to allow Caden Bodine and Nathan Llewellyn the time that they need to develop without having to feel like you're rushing them. So now Bodine's probably going to finish in Double A this year. He's going to probably start Triple A next year, but you're still not in a rush to bring him up because you've got two strong ex Miami Marlins catchers doing the tandem there. And
Yep.
again, it's a left-handed bat for Liam Hicks, and you've got the right-handed back in Nick Fortes. So I like the balance. Like overall, to me, that was the biggest addition. What did you think about their additions?
Well, I thought he was definitely a good addition. I mean, and I think this year alone, his batting average is like 282, like you were saying earlier. But he's also got 14 home runs and 62 RBIs. And that those RBIs, man, I love those. I love seeing that number. And the other part too, I don't think they were getting all the use out of Hicks in Miami. Somewhere I read that, let's see, Joe Mack was pretty much their primary catcher there, and I think Hicks was he a DH? I think he may have been using him as a DH. Yeah, somewhat. So I felt good. I looked at him and said, yeah, that looked pretty well. Sawinski, Peralta, and Tyler Wells. And, Sawinski, I think it's nice to have him. I don't think it's going to be as impactful as Liam Hicks. You and I have talked about catchers for quite a while about having to go in, and Fortis has really set himself. Fadusha has been, okay, but I think Liam Hicks is going to bring a veteran personality and approach to it and show, obviously performing so well this year, he's going to be there. Now,
Yeah.
if you're looking at the others, my next one I would be looking at would be Freddy Peralta, and we've needed. I think the way things have gone lately, do we need another starting pitcher? And would Freddy Peralta be the guy for that?
Yeah, Freddie Peralta definitely is needed. We knew like Shane McClanahan just went on IL.
Yep.
We know that there are others that have had injury issues in the past. So I think that overall, I mean, when you're looking at Peralta, he's gonna no, it's not only just the personality, the makeup, the experience, everything else that he has. He's at his prime age. He has the experience from being in the playoffs with the Brewers behind him as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes from a starting pitching mold where in a big moment, in a big game, he's going to show up. He's one of those guys that I could envision going 5, 6, 7 innings
Mm-hmm.
in a playoff start, and you wouldn't be quick to pull the trigger on pulling him. He doesn't have that Blake Snell aspect where you're like, oh goodness, now he's in the fifth. I got to watch. Like, no, if he's grooving, you're letting him run with it, right? So to me, that's a big piece, and it lowers the pressure as a result on some of the other guys. Like we already have Nick Martinez, which is a veteran arm, and everybody is seeing what he's able to do. Drew Rasmussen has some playoff experience with the Rays. So now between the three of those guys, you've got a trio of guys who their pulse is going to be a little tad lower in those playoff starts, and it allows the rest of it to fall into place. And with Tyler Wells brought into the fold now, Mark, he has been, since the month of June, one of the best relievers in Major League Baseball.
Wow.
So you're looking at, I think it was a 0.68 whip and a 1.01 ERA since June. So he's been really, on par. You're bringing him in and probably bringing back Manuel Rodriguez. Like your pen is amped up at that point. So now with Peralta, then you're bridging that gap a lot more. It's looking good pitching wise, Mark, as long as health holds up until the playoffs and they get synchronized. What I'm most curious about is what do the Rays ask him to focus on to improve what he's done so far? That's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, because I'm looking here right now on Baseball Reference, and I see what Tyler Wells. He's actually, well, he's been busy. It isn't like he's sat down. He's not. He's been busy with the team. He's not sitting down many games here.
Nope.
No, that's good. That's good. My concern is the same one that D-Ray Bays had. I saw them to D-Ray. They say, please prepare your ears to distinguish between Tyler Wells, this reliever, Tyler Wall, the Rays home clubhouse manager, Taylor Walls, the starting shortstop, and Chris Adams Wall, the Rays radio pre- and post-game host. I love that. Yeah, it drove me. That's before when we were playing and I see Tyler Wells would be on the opposing team. We had Tyler Walls. But no, everything about him looks great. I got to say, man, I'm looking forward to seeing him there. I did. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to reflect on the game the other day. I did, when Karen and I went yesterday to the Trop, and we saw the Rays take on the White Sox. And I had great hopes with Griffin Jacks up there. And sitting in the stands in the first inning, the top of the first inning, I believe it was then, it was just painful. And yeah, bang, bang. Ball, I guess, bunted or slyly comes out to Griffin Jackson. He kind of bobbles it and doesn't get it to first in time. And then Velade, he gets the ball and he mishandles it and doesn't get an out that's missed. And then I don't think it was counted as an error, but Ben Williams, he had the opportunity to end that part of the inning, the top of the inning, as someone was running to second, and he was right there. I think he was confused about whether or not he should throw it to home, but I think all we needed was that last out. And if he had tagged that guy, if they had tied that runner up in a pickle, that would have killed, I think, those first couple of runs that the White Sox had in the game, which really started a really good tie. And I got to tell you, man, Sunday morning, early afternoon, whatever you want to call it, it was an interesting game. That place was pretty well packed. There was rain outside. I can tell you that, trying to get in. But it was packed, and a lot of them were White Sox fans, and they were having a time of it. But what I do want to, where I kind of come back to this, is for the trades, I was a little concerned when I didn't see Taylor Walls out there. And I thought, have decisions been made? Is he not going to be with us? But I'm glad to see he's still with the team.
Yeah, well, that was the one that I think that the Rays likely were active in getting Zach Neto and probably asked on Otto Lopez with the Marlins when they were talking to them about Hicks. But I don't think they were going as far as Ellie De La Cruz. I think he was a little bit out of reach with what the demands would be trade-wise. And the Rays did trade a lot of prospects today. Like they sent what most would consider 3 of their top 5 starting pitching prospects.
Yeah.
Like out to other teams, right? So it speaks to a couple of things. First, like they're confident with the talent that they brought in from the draft that just happened. And they're also encouraged by the talent that they have in the DSL. And we talk about this sometimes, Mark, where you need to clear the log jams sometimes to free up space for other guys to get promoted, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many guys in the FCL that looked great for the Rays, including some middle infielders that now, I mean, when you're talking about the Rays trading what I consider to be almost 2/3 of a double-A team, that's what they traded today. You've got Jacob Matz, Michael Forret, and Jacob Kisting, which make up 3 of 5 in a rotation, and then 4 with Gary Gale Hill. So you've got 4 guys in a rotation that would be, considered really strong overall. And then you have Adrian Santana, which is a great shortstop, great range, awesome speed, more like developing power this year. You have Emilien Pitt, which is a high on base percentage second baseman. He's going to hit in the MLB. It's just a matter of, to what level. Aiden Smith, which is a great outfielder. The Rays got him for Randy Rosarena. So you've got like a lot of talent that were sent out. And the confusing one that got the most people torqued online, Mark, was when they included Jacob Matz along with Hunter Fiducia to the Dodgers to get Jack Swinski. But the part that they missed is that the Rays are also getting international bonus pool money. And to me, that was probably the key right there, is that the Rays likely have a target. They needed the extra cash to do it with, because Jacob Matz has the best K to walk ratio in the entire system. Like he's a really talented arm. So it was a little bit odd to see that level of talent go over along with Fiducia when the Rays are actually taking on money with Sawinski. It doesn't really, anyway. It didn't make any sense.
Well, I do want you to kind of come back to that, though, about the international money. Explain that a little bit for us.
So every January, each team gets a whole bunch of bonus pool money, right, in order to sign all of the guys that have been scouting in the Dominican, Venezuela, Panama, wherever it may be in the Latin American sector of the world, and Japan and Korea. So they have a certain amount of international pool money that they get to spend however they see fit. So if they spend all of that money, they do have the ability to trade for a certain percentage. And markets changed so many times. And I can't remember now where it stands, but it's a decent percentage. I think it's 20, maybe up to 30% of your total pool that you're able to add by doing trades with other teams. So what that does at that point is if others weren't able to find as much money as they wanted from whatever teams they were working with, then you're able to snag them away from them, basically. Or if somebody more prominent is suddenly becoming available because they decided to actually sign this year and not wait another year, then you're able to bring them in because you've added some of your pool and they're happy with the amount that you're offering them. But the Rays have seemingly been pretty good at bringing in some talents. There's a few guys that like Braden Taylor was another name that they traded today that was a very prominent hitter. So when you're looking at the system and who they're going to actually promote coming up, there's a lot of guys that have been recently added to the top 30 for the Rays that people are going to start hearing more and more about. Like Victor Valdez is one, who's a shortstop in the DS. He's probably going to be promoted pretty soon. Grady Emerson, some people might have heard about. I don't know if they've heard that name before. And Andremi Antunes is another one who's in A-ball right now. And he's opening up a lot of eyes. He's got a couple of 60-grade tools. And, he's got some speed. He needs some more playing time. But they also have Daniel Pierce, who's been injured most of this year, that they drafted very highly last year. And they need to find some room for him and Cooper Fleming to try to continue developing them as shortstops as much as they can. So now you've got that break between, double A and below where you can actually fill in some of those gaps with some of that youth. The part that was talked about a lot before this trade deadline was that the Rays have a significant amount, like up to 15 people that they need to consider adding to the roster before the Rule 5 draft in November. So the surprising part to me that kind of shocked me a little bit was that they only traded 2 today that would have needed a decision in November out of that 15. So you can still make trades in November to get rid of some of that excess afterwards as well. But I expected a little bit more, maybe 3, 5-ish prospects to be in that range, but maybe those teams weren't willing to consider some of those guys and didn't want to be in that same pinch that the Rays are going to find themselves in.
Well, you've talked in the past too, looking at the AAA team that we have. I mean, it's there's so much talent right there, and where are we going to move all these other guys? Now, I was concerned, I think others too, you even said this, that I thought we might be hearing 2 names we didn't want to hear being traded. That would be Caden Bodine and Theo Gillen. And
That's
both
right.
of those, go ahead. I mean, both of those have strengths that, you've talked about in the past. And I'm excited about watching them come up through the Rays system. So I'm glad that those two guys are still going to be there.
Right. And the Rays also hung on to Jacob Melton, who's an important piece as well. Probably was asked about a lot, and he's a great backup plan for the outfield. They still have Jake Cave and a bunch of others, Jack Swinski they just brought in. But it's interesting that the Rays are willing to go with the majority of the roster that they have, add Liam Hicks, add some pitching to the mix that they have, and then roll the dice on it. And what that tells me is that they're willing, Ben Williamson and Taylor Walls, like you mentioned before, they're two really strong guys.
Mm-hmm.
But the other guy they kept, Mark, was Carson Williams.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that the Angels probably called and asked about him, and they were probably dangling, Zach Neto and a couple of other guys and saying, well, we'll take, Carson and whoever else in that package. But Carson Williams is a nice backup plan if they feel that his bat plays a little bit better in MLB starting, in August and September. Maybe they do make that change and bring him aboard and then start moving guys around even more than they have before. Or if there's an injury, he's a good backup plan.
Well, so I think we got some exciting moves here. We'll see what it makes as far as running into a postseason. I mean, I felt pretty good about the team we have outside of, a few injuries or a few things here and there. Nothing's been dramatic. McClanahan's been the biggest concern. And with bringing in a couple of new pitchers, I think that's going to be helpful. I'm really curious to see how that goes with Peralta and Tyler Wells for the pitching for the Rays as well.
And they also opened up a roster spot with Kenny Piper being added to fill it. There's another catcher who's been in Double-A, and his bat is also pretty decent. I'm not sure how long he'll stay on the roster, if they'll outright him eventually, if there's a reason that they made that move. But he was just added to the 40-man as well.
Wow. We talked about seeing as far as Detroit Tigers making a move with Tarek Skubal and the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
I did not necessarily expect to see the Orioles sending Adley Rutschman to the Red Sox, though. Yeah. I can't imagine right now being in a Orioles fans bar this tonight, how that's, being ingested. I don't think it's going to be, I think a lot of heartburn is going to come from that because he's beloved there. I know he may not be everywhere where everybody like him to be this year, but wow. Were you stunned with that one?
I'm more stunned that their GM is still employed, to be honest.
Okay.
To me, that's, I don't know. Like, I'm all for accountability and people standing up, putting up their hands, saying, hey, I messed up. But honestly, Mark, I look at their system and there is maybe three guys in their entire system that I would put in the Rays top 30.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
and that just tells you, and that, they're just not. They're not patient enough to push it through the line. Like, look at the prospects they traded the Rays. Slater DeBrun just is on fire in A-ball right now since he came back from his injury. We know about Caden Bodine. They just traded Michael Forret back to them and took Tyler Wells as a return. And like we just said, he's one of the best relievers in the league. So, yes, I love Michael Forret as a prospect, and it's nice that they got him back. He's one of those three that I would say would be solidly in the Rays 30. But you need, like we're seeing it with the Rays, you need a full roster of talent to, grind through a season. And it seems to me like the Orioles, a lot like the Blue Jays did in the past, are always piecemealing it. Like, oh, we'll push a little bit here, a little bit there. And they're kind of trying to finagle it instead of going, full cardinal mode is what I would call it, where you're just building from within and you're dealing with the ups and downs of your players and allowing them to grow through them, right? I think they need to do more of that. And there's a lot of their talents like Kyle Flowers and a bunch of other ones they've thrown around the league where I'm just like, man, that's how great would that look on your roster? And then you look at who they kept, like Dylan Beavers and a bunch of others, and you're like, whoa, like what were you thinking? Like, I don't know. Like there's a lot of talent assessment change that they need to go through.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to see what kind of GMs we have at the end of the year, too, if there's how much that their changes might be there. Looking at pitching, The
Mhm.
Pirates got real aggressive with trades. They got, let's see, one, two, three, four. Camilo Doval, a right-handed pitcher from the Yankees. Luke Weaver, a right-handed pitcher from the Mets. Kirby Yates, a right-handed pitcher from the Angels. And Lake Bashar, I hope I'm saying your name correctly there, a right-handed pitcher from the Marlins.
Yeah.
So that was pretty aggressive to be bringing in that many new players and really wanting to shake up their pitching, I guess. Wow.
Yeah, they got Kirby Yates, they got Jonathan Rodriguez, they got
Mm-hmm.
Ron Marinaccio, Hunter Stratton. They just it seems like the shotgun approach, where if you go out and get 8 guys, then maybe 4 of them turn out, like and,
Yeah.
and are really good, and you get to sift through that before the end of the year and then set yourself up. But they I guess they targeted that part of their team and said, this is what we really need to address. And we'll see if they're right or not. The other one that I thought was really interesting is how the Blue Jays dealt with their
Oh, that's right.
trade deadline, because they went out, Mark, and they got Jameson Taillon, which as a Canadian, like it just fits, right? Like it
Yeah.
makes sense for the Jays to bring him in. But they went weird. They got Jose Soriano, which to me is more, of a fit for a contending team. But I guess they're looking at next year because he's still controllable. And for that year and the year after that, I believe as well. But they traded Arjun Nimala, which is a really talented shortstop that I would say most people would have put him in the top 4 prospects for the Jays. And then they also dealt away Dalton Varsho. They dealt Jeff Hoffman to the Twins. They got some decent prospects back, but they're finally, moving on from a few guys like Kevin Gossman, et cetera, to turn the page
Yeah.
on some age and bring in some youth. So I thought they did a solid job overall to make themselves competitive for next year.
I was surprised to see Varsho because I thought he's been a fairly standard, a good player. I mean, and see, he's outfield too, if I remember correctly. And I've seen him make some plays for them. It's like, wow. So
Yeah.
I was a little surprised to see his name go. But, if you're growing with a team, sometimes you've got to make a cancellation to bring something in that you think's going to make a difference to that team. And the Blue Jays, good Lord, man, after being there in the World Series last year, they just had such a rough year. And I don't know there's anything they can do to bring it back, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's also the New York Yankees who brought in, 2 big pieces I consider, where they got Helio Ramos and Luis Garcia Jr. Now, both of those additions to me say we don't know what we're going to get back from Aaron Judge this year. Like they speak to that, right? They're
Yep.
trying to amp up the lineup, and even Cody Bellinger, who's another guy that's been hurt for them. So I think they're worried, but you know how the pinstripes change people, Mark, and you never know which one you're going to get. I will bet today that one of them takes off and takes his game to another level, and another one crumbles. I don't know which, but that's what my bet would be: is that one or the other ends up, crumbling under the pressure of it all, and the other one takes off. And if I had an inclination on it, I would say Luis Garcia Jr. probably puts too much pressure on himself, and
Hmm.
Helio Ramos rises in the spotlight and has a really good end to the season.
Yeah, what's he see Ramos has got like a 292 average and a 835 OPS
Mhm.
against left-handers anyway, last one. So it's it's something, man. What Garcia's 5.60 slugging, third in MLB. Yeah,
Yep.
and then there's guys out there that have the no trade clause, and I don't think we're ever going to see Mike Trout go anywhere. He's going to be there. I like the idea of still having some legacy franchise players. We've talked about that in the past. It's there's a strength to that. Let's see what else did we mention? Nathaniel Lowe.
Nope, not yet.
Okay, well Nathaniel Lowe, he moved from the Reds to the Guardians, and that's
Mhm.
going to be interesting because I think the Guardians, like a lot of people, were trying to knock on the Reds' door for that L.A. De La Cruz. I don't think he's going anywhere. He's doing fine there, and they want to keep him. Let's
Yeah.
see.
But I will say that the the Guardians did a really solid job at this deadline, and they're one of the competitors for this year for the American League side that the Rays need to look at very closely. They got Joe Adell from the Angels, which is a really strong outfield option for them compared to what they had. They also got Blake Perkins. They got Foster Griffin. Foster Griffin is one of those late developing starting pitchers from the Nationals who ended up having a really strong year. So if he's able to maintain that for them and strengthen their already great rotation, if they get a little bit more offense with Joe Adell in the outfield and Nate Lowe, then they're going to be a little bit more dangerous when come playoff time.
Wow. Well, earlier I was talking about clickbait and how Tarek Skubal was it, Luis Arias is as well. And I saw where Bryce Harper was saying he made sure he stood up and said, I think any chances that we have and an opportunity to win, I'd do anything for this organization. And by that, I think Harper is making sure that they understood he'd be willing to change his position if they brought in Luis. And he said that, I think, ahead of Monday's game in Washington. And yeah. So Luis Arias is coming in with the Phillies, and I hope they enjoy having him there. The Phillies, I've kind of felt like them in some ways, like the Yankees. Yeah, they're a good team, but sometimes I just can't stand the whole concept of the attitude that comes with it.
They're putting Bryce Harper back in the outfield because of that, though, Mark.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one. I think once you slow the legs down, it's hard to get them going again and get those reflexes going. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm expecting some frustrated pitching is all I'm saying.
Ooh, Daddy. I don't know. We'll see. That was something. Oh, what else? I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that jumped out at me of those trades.
The big one I thought was Lars Nootbaar, which I like him. I think the D-backs only made that one move. But with that move, they kind of say, hey, we're still around, like we can actually put something together and add a little bit to the outfield. I like what he brings to them because they've had really talented outfield prospects, but for some reason, all of those guys can never seem to put it all together. So he's one of those guys who's going to help. They already have a strong infield. So, adding that little piece in the outfield might be able to give them a little bit more consistency in scoring.
Well, I hope so. I know that, was it Lourdes Garrett? I can't speak. Uriel Jr., he's been injured, so I know that he's definitely going to be able to help as far as the outfield with that as well. So, so that's good moves.
That's a lot of moves tonight, though, Mark, like today. I mean, I didn't expect it. I thought, oh, this is going to be a dud. There was nothing. It was crickets. Yesterday, I was like, what is going on? What are these teams doing? And then all of a sudden, it was like a tidal wave where everything came through all at once. So I don't know if the GMs planned it that way, but it was pretty comical.
It must have been a lot of, playing like Jenga until the last moment. So you could have gone all that whitewater rafting out there and not even worried about any of this. But geez, Manili.
Probably.
Yeah.
So what do you think it all means? Who won the trade deadline, in your opinion?
At this point, I want to see the impact of those 4 new pitchers for the Pirates. To me, that's going to be interesting. I think that the Rays did a great job. I think of holding fast primarily with who they have, but building some strength there with the catching. Our good buddy Josh Weaver, who has felt stronger about the Rays at the beginning of the season than we did. Yeah, his lady Kay, she said, I think they need to do something about that catching. She said the other day, I said, Josh, I'm going to start coming to you for a resource, you and Kay.
That's awesome.
But no, who do I think? I don't know. I think we made probably the best choice as far as that goes. I mean, it's staying put in many cases. But I think if you're looking across, I want to see, I'm going to be curious to see how all the changes for pitchers impacts the Pirates. What about you?
I'm going to go kind of an outside I think the obvious one is who got the best player, and it's the Dodgers. They got Therese Kugel. No, hands down. You have to be one of the top 3 at that point. So I'll name the top 3 that I think. The second one is going to surprise you. I think it's the Brewers. I think Antonio Senzatella, Dustin May, Bo Naylor, Lance McCullers Jr., Brayton Shoemake, and Jojo Romero. And the reason I like what they did is that they went with a little bit of breadth of starting pitching and strengthened their catching backup plan. But the Antonio Senzatella is one he's been at Rocky for so long, Mark. You're
Yeah.
talking about a guy who came up with them at 2017. He's been with them ever since. So he spent basically a decade at their stadium. And he's got a 361 ERA and a 1.2 whip playing out of that stadium. I think you're going to see a huge increase in his performance level just based on the fact that he's getting away from that field. And I think it's probably one of the more underrated additions for this trade deadline that people probably won't talk about very much. But when I'm looking at his home and away splits, he has a 649 OPS away and a 719 at home. So you're looking over the majority of his time. I think it's a 2.57 ERA and let me look for the whip, the 1.12 whip away from cores. So I think they snagged one there that people weren't really looking at very closely. He's 31, so he's very mature. He's not going to be stressed out when he's on the mound in the playoffs. And for them, they really needed it because they've got some injuries. So then I would put the Rays as the other one out of the top three. I do think they addressed, like I said, 3 of their 4 biggest needs. Yes, they missed out on a hitting shortstop that can field a decent amount, but I think they can mitigate that with what they have aboard.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how that does impact the Rays. I was glad to see some talent that I was concerned about might be leaving, isn't. I mean, and the whole idea of trades is, yes, there's going to be some players you're going to see go that, each one of us may have a certain appeal to us, but I trust what the front office has done most all the time. I mean, Eric Neander and his team seem to be doing it right. They must be more than just doing analytics, because I feel like there's got to be a gut feeling with some of that. Maybe not. Maybe I'm giving more credit. I want to see Freddy Peralta. I want to see what he's going to be doing with it. But we will see. Are they playing the Rockies tonight?
Yeah, they're up 5-0 right now.
Holy Jaboozy.
Caminero hit his 31st of the season.
Well, that's a whole hell lot better than the other night at the Trop. Yep. So I'm glad to hear that. I was really curious to see after that long flight out there how they were going to be doing today. Well, that's good. I want to primarily see. I want to probably wrap this up here in a second, but I do want to mention, as far as the Women's Pro Baseball League that got started this weekend, Matt, and I'm going to do more on that on another show. But it was amazing to see that talent. You got 4 teams, each one with a 15-woman roster. And we're going to talk more at another time about those team names, what they represent. And it was interesting to see, as far as the captains, who am I trying to think of? See, one of them was Canadian Allie Schroeder. She was there. And then, of course, Kelsey Whitmore. And then, oh my gosh, Ashton Lansdale, who was just amazing player, watching her at the World Baseball Tournament up in Rockford. So that was something else. And who's the other one escapes me at the moment? And I apologize. But there's all kinds of, it may have been Danae Benitez. And seeing Danae Benitez play out there, she's a great catcher, but then she hits a home run. This is something, Matt. And this field that they're playing in is rather unique in itself, too. It's called a turtleback field. Have you ever heard that term before?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Now, that just sounds dangerous to me, because my understanding of it is basically you've got your regular infield, all that is pretty much laid out the same. But then as you get out from the infield dirt and go to the outfield, there's it can be up to like an 18-inch drop off. Mm-hmm. So that if you're an outfielder, you better be fast on your feet, or you better be understanding of what that field is like, because it's not going to be just running down a straight line. You may have to move a little left or right to just kind of get your footing to be chasing a ball down. So anyway, there's all kinds of little unique things going on with this tournament. It's I've seen some people being critical of the announcers and nitpicking this, that, and the other. Oh, they say that name wrong, or they mispronounce their own team. And it's like, dude, settle down. This is a brand new league. And I know some were displeased because they thought all the games would be free to watch. And honestly, you have to have ESPN to see these right now. But this league has to sustain itself in some way, and that's going to be part of it. And I think that if you love this game, you're going to find a way to watch it. And if you don't love it enough to put up a little extra to see the game, then, shame on you. There's highlights that you can probably find on YouTube. But the Women's Pro Baseball League got started this week, and the first two games out of the chute, they've got Monday and Tuesday off, and then they resume again. Basically, all the entire month here of August, they're going to be playing there in Springfield, Illinois, those 4 teams. And I am really excited about continuing to watch as all this evolves. And we'll do some stories about them later on too. But yeah, I did want to get that out. But that turtle backfield, man, I had not heard of that before.
Yeah, I'd heard about it. I don't remember where I'd heard about it, but because I watched so much minor league baseball, it probably was one of those fields that ended up being part of it. Or the other league that I looked at for a while was the Frontier League, and it had some fields that were a little bit wonky. And then the other one that I'll throw out there is the Australian Baseball League might have had it. But anyways, I'd heard the term before. I knew what it meant. And it does, do you remember some of the outfields that had that slope at the end there right before you get to the wall?
Yeah.
that goes up in center field. It's a little bit like that. You've got to be aware of where you are in the field and just watch your step. Or when they're handling foul balls and there's the mounds there that the pitchers are using to warm up, well, that's the same kind of thing. You've got to be aware of your obstacles when you're playing. But I really would encourage people to go and watch the highlights. That was the first thing I wanted to see, Mark, without actually going out to look for it. In my feed, I was seeing highlights come through. And that, to me, was very encouraging. And it's a telltale sign that people are paying attention. And they're sharing, and they're throwing that information out there. And the heart and soul that they played with, the fact that it was sold out, there was lines, of people that were there extremely early to get in the stadiums. The highlights speak for themselves in terms of the quality of the play. I think you'll see that improve over time as they get familiar and better and start amping up their intensity. But I think that a little bit of the nervousness in a couple of ways when you're watching the game seem to come through in certain moments. But overall, it's a very strong start. Yeah. I like the feel. I like the face paint that some of them had, the black streaks across the cheeks. This isn't going to be a bush league. This is going to be one of those leagues where you can tell the intensity is going to increase the more that the animosity between players starts to build.
Well, the funny thing is you've got teammates who were playing on the same country team, whether it be USA or whatever, and now they're, opposing. And some of these are good friends, like Danae Benitez and Ashton Lansdale. And I was I wonder, I saw Danae, she's a catcher, and Ashton was up to bat. And I was I wonder, are you talking trash to your buddy there?
Yeah. You're going to get one thrown in your ribs or something like that.
Yeah. But they show so much fun. I mean, there's so much what they do on Instagram, TikTok, et cetera, keeping it lively and fun. And I think that brings in a younger audience, because you and I talk about that a lot, about what baseball needs to do to bring in, a younger audience. I think that's the other part of what this is going to do too. So, and you talk about them standing out there to get in the game. They were standing in the rain, the folks to come into that game. We had a bit of a delay before they got started. I liked it too, because as far as the first pitch, the celebratory, they had Maybelle Blair. He's 99 years old, had been one of the All-Americans and certainly played baseball as a professional long ago, but she's also a powerhouse, and they created a mascot for her too, which was a little odd, seeing the mascot and her side by side. But the other celebratory first pitch was from Tony La Russa. I thought, man, that was so cool to see him out there as well.
Mm-hmm. We just had the trade deadline in Major League Baseball. How long before we have one in the women's pro league?
Hey, I don't know, brother. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be something. I'm excited about it. It's we're going to see it, but this got to get off the ground. And so those of you all who have any questions about how all this is developing, with the Women's Pro Baseball League, all I can say time and time again is get out there, enjoy it, watch it. And going back to the team captains, let's see, it's Kelsey Whitmore with the San Francisco Firebells, Ashton Lansdale with the Los Angeles Queens. And she was, by the way, like player of the game one day last week at the tournament there. Danae was talking about she's also captain for the New York Heights, and Allie Schroeder from Canada, she's with the Boston Hunters. So one last thing I'll leave you with too is of the 4 managers, one of them was a woman. I was hoping I would see more, but I think that woman has brought a lot more to the game, Rochelle Rocky Henley. She's managing the New York Heights, and the thing about that is that she has been coaching and playing women's baseball for a long time. So and she's known a lot of these players long before they ever gathered in Springfield. So I think she has an advantage over some of the other managers. So it's exciting times, folks. Find a way to watch it. And like Matt said, the highlights will pop up somewhere with you, but it's the Women's Pro Baseball League. And I want to say thank you to Justin Siegel and all the good people who are making this happen. Well, that's all I got. Anything else you would like to add, sir?
I would like to say that now that the trade deadline is behind us, the next big step that's going to happen is basically who falls to the ground because of health issues and who's there as the backup plan. So people can enjoy the rest of the season now and write it out, the players they have, take a fresh look at the depth that their team has and whatever they dealt away and whatever they got back. So in the Rays case, now you have a whole new hierarchy of catching depth. But to me, it looks really solid all the way through. So I'm encouraged about it. Every team's going to have their own issues based on what they dealt away and took in. But now I'm starting to think about extensions, Mark. Uh-oh. I want to see Junior Caminero get a significant deal. I want to see some of the core pieces to be established. Grady Emerson maybe gets an early one, start building around, and that applies to all the teams, not just the Rays, but start building a long-term plan based on what moves you just made and solidify your position, which is something, going back to the Orioles, that they had never have done with anything but first baseman. So if you think back to Chris Davis, when they did the last remake of their team, he was the only mainstay for years that was getting paid. Now they're back to that with Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso is the only one getting paid, and they still haven't extended Gunnar Henderson. So each team has their own situation going on. And now is the time where you get to digest your front office's plans. Yeah. And how does it look now? Okay, how strong are we? Were we able to throw some chips in like the Rays did, almost trading 2/3 of a AA team, and what did that result in when you do that? And so, in my opinion, in the Rays situation, you look at and you're still strong. So the front office must have loaded up on enough talent to put themselves in a position to do that. So I'd be curious to find out mid-September how people feel about their front office's moves compared to what they do now.
I think it's a reasonable time period, about a month and a half, to see what's assessments to be made, and closing in on October by then. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out with these decisions, Matt. And I can't thank you enough, brother, for tracking all this and from out there in the wilds of Nova Scotia and taking the time to share with us your insights on what's happening and tracking it long before the deadline came to close. So what's the score right now with the Rays?
With the Rays and Rockies, it's 6-0 for the Rays. And the reason they brought up Kenny Piper is because they had made that deal and they needed another catcher. So he's in the lineup today. Oh. He's already got a walk and a run, so he's being productive. So good for him.
Way to start. All right. Well, Matt, thanks again, buddy. We'll catch up next week. And I want to thank you all for joining us here today. And we look forward to talking with you again real soon.
Bong.
If you enjoyed this show, go ahead, like, and subscribe to Baseball Biz on Deck. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck on YouTube at iHeartApple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and and at baseballbizondeck.com. Also, you can find Matt at matgermain.bskysocial. That's Matt at matgermain.bskysocial, or Mark at baseballbizondeck.bskysocial and baseballbizondeck with Facebook.